Yeah,
That's
that's kind of how I was thinking going about it. When I did the 7 levels deep, um my because I'm a six I was a homeschool mom with 6 kids, um and I used my own children as a guinea pig of this process of trying to uh, teach them or have them keep their creative side. So when I did the levels deep, I loved what Mike said about him learning from his own mistakes so the children that he teach doesn't have to go through those mistakes. That when I went through my 7 levels deep, I had also made that one of my whys. If you want, I can go ahead and share that. I have my laptop now.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it, Rachel.
Okay. And it is geared towards my own children, if you think out of it, it's also could be implied for all children, because I don't want this just to be for my children. I want to share this with everybody. But it says, why is it important to you about becoming successful? And it is important for me, I had put, to be a safe and reliable source of income for my children. I am newly divorced, so that was obviously going to be my first why. Um, my second level is, why is it important to you to be reliable? And then I had put, so I could be a good role model in my kids' lives. And I would love to be a good role model for, as a teacher, you're a good role model for all children around you. Why is it important to you to be a role model? So they can learn from my mistakes. Why
Yeah,
is it in,
yeah.
yeah, why is it important to you to have them learn from your mistakes? To give them a firm foundation. And that is one of my key, that has been a core of mine, to give children firm foundations, because otherwise things just get chaotic if it's not, they don't have that grasp on what they believe themselves. Why is it important to you to give them a firm foundation? To give them all the tools they'll need in life. Why is it important to you to make sure they have all the tools to make sure that they are successful? Why is it important to you to make sure they're successful so they have an easier and happier life? And when they are successful, and when they when they're happy about what they are, or if they're passionate about what they're doing, life is easier. And that is another core of my beliefs, or it's like I always try to find out how to do things easier and simpler. um, and and I actually this past week started a Facebook group where I'm sharing my tips of how I've made life at home, or even life in general in the workforce, to keep things simple. And I love that my why ended up, and so they have an easier and happier life.
Hmm.
Easier and happier.
Yeah, yeah.
I think I really resonate with with the thing that you said, that be a good role model,
Yes.
because that appeared in my when I was going through 7 level deep. Why I had that as well on my list,
Hmm.
and being in the school as a teacher as I was until now, I didn't feel like it. I didn't feel like I
Oh.
was a role model that anybody should follow. You know,
Hmm.
even though I had, like, good ideas and I tried this and that, but at the end of the day, I was just a follower of the system, right? And I ended up with one of the points on my sheet over here is this: I want education to liberate and unite people and not give them the steady life as followers.
Oh, I
So
like that.
when I think about my children going to the best schools and then ending up like I did, that would be a failure for me as a father and a role model.
That's awesome. Yeah, I always had, but that was more of a little bit more of low self-esteem, and not being able to look at myself in a more positive way. I've also had those, I'm not worthy to be the good role models, but we got to just think outside of ourselves, and step up and become that role model.
Mhm.
Where did the feeling of unworthiness come from?
Oh, 17 years of a bad relationship.
Okay.
That's where that came from. But yeah, but you,
Well, for me, only 14, so you're winning.
yeah, I also have I have 6 kids too, so.
Yeah, that's a classroom in itself, in a way, isn't
I
it?
know. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Well, now that I'm back home teaching them, so it's been really nice.
Yeah. Lucy was nodding while Michael was talking about his life journey and his why. Lucy, you smiled and nodded at one point when Michael was talking. I'm wondering what that was about.
I wonder at what point that was, though. I mean, I just kind of relate to all of it. I mean, we all have, for me, it's interesting because my several levels deep exercise almost needs to be done over again. And I almost want to challenge myself here and have somebody work through the 7 levels deep with me, because I've had to recalibrate. I recalibrated my goal. Not so much my goal, but to my niche that, I had to narrow it down to. It was through the hooking up with the World Education Innovators that I decided that my niche really are the retired teachers, because that's who I am and that's what I know. And I've been retired now for quite a few years. And of course, when we work, we all think about, oh, wouldn't it be great? Oh yeah, I can't wait till I retire. I'm just going to do what I want to do you get to retirement, you go, oops. Yes. Well, fortunately for me, I moved to Mexico, which allowed me to do what I wanted to do. I could never have done what I'm doing here in Mexico in San Francisco, for example, because San Francisco has changed. It's a different place than what it used to be. I lived there for 35 years. And so Mexico has allowed me to live my dream of retirement. And so after doing, I don't want to take too much time here, but after doing exactly what I wanted to do when I retired, which is get a beautiful house, get myself established so I could do what I wanted to do. What was that? Well, I wanted to learn new skills, so I learned how to play tennis for the first time in my life, to keep because that was going to be my form of exercise, to keep my body in shape and eat properly, and you can get fresh vegetables here. You go to the open market. I mean, that afforded me the capability of putting fresh food on my plate, and then I took up bridge that I used to do in college, and that was the thing that I was going to do to keep those neurons firing, so there was all this stuff that I was able to do in Mexico, and I lived a wonderful kind of doing what I wanted to do for about 10 years. And then I had this awakening. It's like, oh, okay, now, I always knew that what made me happy was serving others. I was fortunate enough to teach with the Jesuits, who, their mission was to teach the whole person. And of course, the campus ministry of what I taught was what served me the most, what gave me most pleasure. And that was taking these rich students in San Francisco, whose parents wanted them to go to Harvard, wanted them to go to Yale, take these students in their junior year to third world countries to show them how those people lived. And those were awakening moments for these kids. It's like, oh my God, look at these kids. They don't have shoes on and they are smiling all day long. They're happy. What's wrong with me? I have a pimple on my face and I can't be happy. And all I can do is, I mean, those were moments for me that were so, made me happy. And I thought, oh, this is what I want to do. I want to awaken these things in people. And so I had another awakening where these retired people, it's like, you have so much knowledge, you have so much expertise. So you can imagine how KBB came to me just in time. You have so much knowledge, you have so much expertise, you have so much experience that you can't go to the grave with this. I know them, you may be 70 years old, it doesn't matter. Time to reawaken the dream, another dream in you. And so I was able to, through joining all of you, and especially Michael's invitation to join the teachers here, to narrow down my niche to retired teachers. And that's what I want to do now, is to awaken the imagination of these retired teachers, to help them be aware of their knowledge, their expertise, their experience, and how they can help others and maybe impact other people's lives.
That's a shift that's taken place very recently, isn't it? Because last time you were talking about mini courses for students.
Well, yes, you're right.
And it might now be mini courses for retirees, to allow them to understand what your move to Mexico has meant to you, and changing a physical environment can bring that to our consciousness as well. And I'm wondering if Jens feels the same thing. I mean, he's from Switzerland and he's wanting to do French and plastic. What's your thought on this, Jens? The environment makes a difference to the why, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Actually, I think it's an incredible moment for human beings to reconnect with nature in a way where they really get to root, to get to understand where we are coming from and what this is all about. And it sounds very metaphysical, but also the ancestry, the ancient knowledge of the Latin American cultures. And I've been in Mexico for 16 years before I went to Los Angeles, and now I'm back down here and reconnect actually with a lot of friendships, a lot of people. And they are all having this moment right now to how to reconnect with nature. And that's something that's for me, reconnecting with nature is kind of reconnecting with my own body also, and have a mind-body relationship that is just more honest and just more true, and build on that and build with that. And there's so much going on I was not aware about in this connection, and just finding back to myself through nature, and being out there quite a bit, and Mexico is such a vast ecosphere that we can actually dip into that pretty easily. You can do that anywhere, obviously, loads of places, but for me it's just important to take care of the place that takes care of us. So, but that's on a very, very personal note here, and related to teaching. I just want to be close to people who have the sensitivity to show certain connections and things. And I had a talk with Sarah yesterday evening about that many things we come to this place already knowing it. It's already in us. And once there is this patience of a teacher who can show that and can really bring that up in the children, with patience and with proper guidance, to reconnect with things that we already bring with us as human beings. That's something I consider so important, and I think that part has a lot to do with how we are rooted and how we are considering our environment and our surroundings. So it goes very much into this direction.
Sarah, you were wanting to say something.
I was getting ready to. I think I'm on deck, so just getting ready to speak. But I'll let Jens finish if he's not.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm finished.
Actually, Jens, if you would like to continue this in a way of the tool is designed, I would actually want to ask you then, why is it so important for you to reconnect with nature and with ancestors, and why is it important to you to teach that to the children right now? Why is it important to you? Why do you think it's something that you're into?
Well, it has to do with my family life, because I saw or I see that my parents have been through a certain disconnect, and the generation of my parents and of their parents have been going through a certain disconnect through just the systems that were in place before, and so did I. I felt strongly disconnected, or I feel that there was a strong disconnection. So that's the reason I want actually everybody to expand their consciousness on their level of possibilities. There is no right or wrong in that. It's just that this travel we can really we can expand on, and it's a marvelous travel if we really get to see it, and if we really are into it, you know.
Yeah, I enjoyed your reference 2 or 3 times in what you were saying, Jens, to roots and using the metaphors from nature. That has been largely missing. I mean, the definition of success usually takes us to heads and to thinking about the established, systemically established notions of success, which are usually related to income and comfortable living and the easy life. And Mexico, for me, I've come from Australia, which is not a land that is soft. It's a hard land. And the part of Mexico that really resonated with me when I came here was Oaxaca in particular, and also Chiapas, those 2 areas. And in that sense, Mexico is the name Mexico is a sort of fiction. You know, it's the football club, the football, the flag and football, the World Cup and that sort of thing is when the concept of Mexico comes alive. I mean, where I'm sitting at the moment and looking out my window, on the weekends, people coming up from Mexico City, defying this idea of social distance altogether, are gathered in a touri bus, which takes them through the scenic elements of Tlayacapan, and the people guiding them keep on saying, "Viva Mexico! Viva Mexico!" And that cry is a reinforcement of a linguistic concept, like, you know, the Mexico, the word Mexico is a sort of a way of collectivizing, bringing people together, sure, but it's also a form of dislocating them from the idea of humanity on a more global scale. The feelings that humans have everywhere.
Their pride.
Is that right? I mean, for you, does that resonate with you? The idea of getting to the human element, like what is it that makes us human? Why do I smile every time instinctively? And I'm so pleased I do it when I see little children, especially recently, or the last 20 years in Mexico. Instinctively, and I'm a grandfather, and my focus is very much on my grandchildren and the world that they'll have to negotiate as a consequence of human-made interventions in natural processes and the way we've disrupted the interconnectedness of nature and the ways in which language has divided us rather than brought us together. And my objective has been to focus on the ways in which we can refer to nature's language system, so to speak, which brings me and my researchers to DNA as being the message that we're born with, and that we're here to discover the message of that uniqueness of us all. That is also the bond that brings us all together, or the family feeling, the human family, the human party, rather than the Democrats, Republicans, Conservatives, Tories, Labor Party, those sort of designations, that there's a concept of the human party that I'm trying to bring back into the consciousness of people too. That's terrific stuff, really. It gets to me very deeply, what's just been said. Children and those yet to be born, you know, and have that idea of future is both a daunting and a really sort of open plain prairie land of opportunity for us to reinvigorate the human connection in what we do, to be fragile, to expose our humanity to our students, and to show them that we're people, not just a role. And that's made so difficult by the educational structures that exist in traditional educational institutions, which is the reason I was attracted to the World Education Innovators. And one of the reasons I wanted Mike to accept, which he did, the insertion of world there. Education Innovators, one thing, and to look at the concept of innovation as well, what that actually means. Yeah. Thank you for those felt thoughts. The felt thoughts, the feelings that become thoughts that come through our bodies when we say what we first feel to think, and getting through the fear of doing that, and encouraging students to do that as well.
Sarah, would you want to go with one of your goals?
Yeah, I'd love to jump in. So
all right.
I am so aligned with everything everyone is offering. As I mentioned last week, was it last week? Yeah, it was last week. As a student, I've felt, I mean, looking back, I realized I've just wasted, 15 years of my life, the 15 years I was in school. Like, it was just a waste of time. And now that I'm an adult, a teacher, I realize how very limited education is. And I really never thought I'd be a teacher, but I just fell into it.
The students asked you why. They asked you. They invited you to become their teacher.
Yes, remember? Yeah.
Didn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's it's been a really natural process that I'm seeing develop in a beautiful way. And yes, it's not one of these dreams that I've had or I'm pushing. It's just a dream that's been given to me and that I'm fulfilling on. It's quite natural. And for me, to answer your question, I really, my why is to really change, innovate, redesign, destructure we call the educational system, you know, because as I said, it's very limiting. I mean, I was in a system. I mean, I was in several systems. The French system, which was very strict. You know, if you didn't follow the rules, you would get slapped around, and your book bag would fly out the window, and you would get a 0. And you know,
Wow.
and then I was in the American system in a private school where it was all learning through fun, and I really had. It was so interesting for me to have these two worlds, because now I can understand both sides.
Mhm.
And I work in a French school, so the teachers, even there's one of the American teachers, very strict, and I really don't want to go that way. I want to go the playful way with my students. I don't want to be a teacher that knows it all and that, you know, tells students what they should know. No, I want to be a guide. I want to guide them through the subjects and topics, and I want to guide them through an artistic, creative manner. For example, learning math through music or dance, learning history through
I love that.
theater,
Mhm.
learning, you know, biology, or going, or you know, going to nature. You're just giving me another idea here. Really going to nature and connecting with nature. I basically, learning why it's so limited is because it's been just, you sit down at your desk, you open a book, and you quote unquote think. But really, learning is with the whole body, not just with the head. And that's what makes learning powerful. I want to create a space and environment for students / explorers. I don't even want to say they're students, they're explorers. They're fresh on earth here, and they have to explore. I mean, I want to invite them to explore this earth they landed on, and themselves. And so these little explorers, to find, I really want to create the environment for them to find and develop their genius. They came here with a genius, and we're here to find out what it is.
Yeah.
And this
If you think about it, these children are born they're born as explorers. They taught themselves how to crawl. They taught themselves how to sit up. They taught themselves how to walk. But as soon as we put them in school, we tell them how to think. Tell them. Yeah, I'm in line exactly to what you are saying.
And so it's very limiting to them. They just get, like, I remember clearly for myself, I was exploring, and then one day, no, you have to do it like this. You have to learn this. And I was blocked. I mean, it made me, you know, it just I did not develop as I could have. And their intelligence, is not just revealed through their brain, but also through their bodies, their emotions, their imagination. And that's what I want to, you know, work with, not just their brain and having them answer questions on a piece of paper. Education comes from the Latin educare, you know, to educate, educare, which means to lead out. So to lead out. So they have something within themselves. So there's, you know, is out, and educare is to lead. So to lead out. So for me, the concept of educare, the educator, it helps the student / explorer bring something out of themselves, their genius, their intelligence, bring out and develop something, you know, their potential. And I love that. This is what excites me most, is seeing people's potential. And so I see these children, and I'm discovering who they are. I'm not telling them how they should be. I'm asking them, who are you? What do you like? You know, how do you see this? How would you do this? What do you think that is? You know, because they're the explorers, and I'm witness to their exploration, and nothing else. And I'm just creating the space and freedom to do that. So I love when, Michael, you said education to liberate. Well, yeah, it's leading out, it's bringing out, it's liberating their genius. From last week, I really loved and have been thinking of the concepts of self-education, spiral education. I'm really interested in learning more about that, because I do see things in spiral. Nothing's linear. Everything is, yeah, it's not. It's a spiral. So that's my take on and why I'm here. And so what I see happening before my eyes is that I was, a student who's been stunted, and or an explorer / artist who's been stunted as a student. And when I got out of school, all I wanted to do was leave my strict parents' house and go and be an artist, create art. And so I signed up. I went to art school, and I went to theater school, and then I went to film school. And that was and that was my way of finding myself again, to explore life and explore the outer life and explore my outer life. And then so I continue to be an artist and to express myself through this and to explore the world through the arts. And then the universe brought me into a teaching role. And so what I want to do is bring the arts into the classroom. If I want to call it classroom, I don't know about that, but especially now that we're not really in the classroom. And then with Jens, developing these virtual tools to creating a virtual space where explorers can learn languages in a whole new way, in a very interactive manner, with their whole body and their emotions, and just really trying to think outside the box, getting out of this, get out of the textbook. I'm not talking about books, but like textbooks, getting off the chair, off the desk, out of the classroom. That's what I'm visualizing. That's really to witness and guide these explorers into discovering the world and their outer world and their inner world on a physical, emotional level. Not just with their brain. I want to help them use everything they have.
Yeah, well, let's bring the brains into this too. I mean, the brains are there. The brains have been, it's a wonderful testimony you've given, and I've enjoyed listening to it. But the brains have been misunderstood too. I mean, it's be regarded as an area of electricity and where thought happens, and it's very more or less arid, and all the juices and the gooey stuff that we feel with is sort of not present there. But it's not true. There's a man called John Berglund who writes about the brain as being like Gondwanland, which was the continent that connected South America, Australia together a long time ago. A wetland, a land of ooze and sort of moist and yummy, sort of. I like to think of it like that. Not a sort of a place where electrodes flash and it's all dry. And thought happens, and we have to thank Descartes for dividing the mind from the body. People know about this. It's called the mind-body problem. And it's a problem that Descartes created by talking about the mind-body as if they were separate. Mm-hmm. And education's followed the Descartesian division very, very powerfully in their teaching, Sarah. The other lovely thing too about spiral is it's got an open end. I mean, it's linear if you start drawing it from the Educare, which is the other resource that you've mentioned too, is looking at the origins of words from the dictionary. Getting students to look where these words come from that we keep on using. What's their history? Because it wasn't the history that we were part of. And we were introduced to words like education without really being invited to say, well, you know, where did this idea come from? Where do ideas come from? Don't they come from feelings? Don't all our thoughts come from the way we feel, the biochemistry of the body? And that's the great contribution that neuroscience is making to all this too. There's a lot of lovely stuff that I had the privilege of learning from a course for coaching called Conversational Intelligence. And I was brought to know about two particular chemicals. One's called cortisol and the other one's called oxytocin. And cortisol closes you off. It's when you get angry and tight and you feel anxious and frightened, and you've got the freeze, fight and flight impulses that come from the amygdala, which is the back part of the primitive, the 2 million year old brain. And the prefrontal cortex is the one that we've been taught to divide off. That's where only thought happens here, and feeling is somewhere else, but it's connected together. And I learnt that, and that's cortisol. Cortisol is the sort of thing that causes people to kill each other over their religious beliefs and their political parties and the colour of their skin. And oxytocin is the love drug. It's the one that mothers have when they're breastfeeding children, and children receive at that time in our lives, which we've all had, I suppose. If we've been breastfed, we have that. The milk, as it were, of life is the one that's the joy drug, the one that opens us up to influence, where we don't put our arms up and say, no, that's enough. You know, on my coffee cup, we've got your enthusiasm is scaring everyone. I like that. That's what happens in academic institutions. If you're really enthusiastic about this, people go, oh, use the impersonal pronoun. You don't say I, you say, one might have thought that. One might have thought that. And then you think, I wonder what two thinks, or three. You start playing around with these stupid distancing efforts by the people who have so much wisdom to share, but they're emotionally so underdeveloped that they've been brought up to, done well at school, they go to university, then they become a university teacher. They really never ever see the world like Jen's has done, for example, I've done, and Lucy's done, and Mike's done, traveling around Asia, and Sarah. The actual movement for different environments puts it in your face, literally, like you see things, smell things that you've never smelt before, and you say, wow, this is two responses: close off, look away, or look into someone else's eyes and wonder what's going on behind their beautiful eyes. That's what I do when I meet people. I wonder what's going on behind your beautiful eyes. Will you tell me what you first feel to think? Do we trust each other enough to do that? What would happen if we do? What's happened when we did? We got punished for it. Didn't we, everybody? Didn't we? Am I the only one who got punished for saying what you felt to think? That's what the body's made to do.
I'm the only one that was fired for it, but yeah, I think
I got fired for it, yeah.
We were all punished in some way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the why, what you do in that circumstance. Why do you keep on, getting insulted and getting hurt and still keep on doing it? It's to keep something alive in yourself. It's very important.
I just wanted to go back a little bit to Sarah, use Sarah example actually to show you one more time the power of this tool and how you can use it with your students, guys, as well, because we're going through this clarity tool right now just to find what we actually can do for each other and how we can best help each other to get where we want to go, to get to these goals, right? So I want to go back to this picture again. And if we look at Sarah's example, last time, Sarah, you said that your goals for from 1 year from now were to create an effective online system serving students, and to find creative ways how to teach language and arts, right? Those were the things that you started with. But then when you ask yourself a little bit deeper, you said that you just don't want students to waste their time in school. And that's important for you because you felt like you went through the system that punished you for making mistakes and stopped you from achieving, you know, your full potential, right? You went a little bit deeper and you said that you want to guide the explorers to discover the physical, spiritual world, right? So you went through from your goals, you went to these deeper understandings, deeper whys. And now if you think about it from the other side, what if you're not going to walk through this path? What if you're not going to do this? What's going to happen with those students, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see, if you don't do that, then what will happen? If you start imagining that, then maybe this road is not that difficult anymore as it was before you found this deeper whys. And now when I'm thinking about teaching students right now, and especially like what Rachel said, it's so important for her to find passion, that the students have passion for learning and they love to learn, because this brings life in what their surrounding, right? And that's where I started as well. I wanted the learning to be the thing that you do, right? And obviously it was sort of easier for us to do it when we didn't have all these distractions, new technologies, new things, and an easy way of living. It was not existing, so we're sort of drawn to learning. It was interesting, right? But right now we don't have time to be bored. You know, my children and my daughter, if she's bored for 5 minutes, she's already like on me, daddy, I don't know what to do. I'm bored. I'm bored. And I'm like, that's good, because this is the time for you to think what else you can do, you know? And they just can't have it, you know, not even for 5 minutes. Being bored is just something very, very bad, you know? And I don't think that, because that's the moment when you actually are allowing your brain to be creative. So this is my invitation for you guys to actually use the clarity tool with your students as well, to find their why. This is how you can serve your students better, because you know what they want, right? So we're not just enforcing our ways or like what we think is important, what we think they should do, but if we're actually looking for deeper meaning, why they want to watch this iPad right now, why they want to, I don't know, follow this little bug or this little cockroach that is going somewhere in the corner, right? And it's like, what you doing right now? But instead of thinking them, just maybe go with them. You know, I'm giving this example because I was teaching mostly in the kindergarten class. And that's basically happened a few times, you know, the kids are interested in bugs and they will follow them, you know, and some teachers will be very disturbed with that, and then we'll stop them right away instead of letting them inquire. So yeah, I think asking kids the why question and going a little bit deeper will allow us to find out what they really after. And it might be the case that after we do it for long enough, you know, and stay consistent with asking these questions, they will figure out that maybe what we are offering is something that they actually need.
That's awesome. I never even thought to use the 7 layers with my children, or with Lucy. You would probably use it for retired teachers.
Right.
Yeah, this is a great idea.
You can see that the 7-layer deep why that is a separate tool in KBB, and you can use it as a separate tool, but it is incorporated in the clarity tool.
Clarity tool, right?
In point 3, right? This is pretty much the same thing. With kids, obviously, you don't need to go all like, you don't have
7.
to sit them down for half an hour and ask them why 7 times.
Oh, give them a little taste of what they give us.
Yeah, right. Why, mommy? Why?
Why, Mom? Why is the sky blue?
Why? Yeah. Because I said so. You know?
But it is important, and it leads us to the end goal of this exercise. The end of this exercise is actually to find out what do we need to do, and or how we need to do it in order to get this deepest wants that we had at the beginning. So maybe I'll give it back to John. Just give you the slide back, and you can just explain the last bit of our puzzle over here.
Explain what? Explicate. That I was thinking, Michael, as you were talking about your students looking at little bugs walking around the wall. That's another meaning for bugger, isn't it? They become little buggers, which means it loosens bugger from being a terrible word to an attractive describer of what children are interested in and whether we will follow what their interests are. If we want to connect with them, we must do so. And to create a space where they feel free enough to do that. So, you know, the image that's up on screen at the moment, there are a lot of things that stop us doing that. And I've just communicating with Jen on the chat, just exchanging an email with him because I'm wanting to speak with him more about plastic and his app and how he's using that because it's really needed.
In Mexico.
Yeah, read it in Mexico. I mean, the area of responsibility around an individual body in Mexico is so limited, so much closer to the body than my experience in Australia and generally in Europe, where people take responsibility for more of the space around them to keep it free of plastic and whatnot than happens here. And I'm trying to work out why that is true, because the strength of Mexico is family. And I suppose that's one of the reasons why there's a sort of little circle around them. Their concept of society is, in that sense, stronger, but also more tighter, as it were, the limits around them, more like a circle than a spiral, so to speak. I'm not sure where you're asking me to be the facilitator of the conversations. Huh?
I think we could probably try to finish this in this session. So the last step of the clarity tool is pretty much the point number 4 is the capabilities we need to achieve goals that we're after, right?
Yeah.
We already know why we want these goals, why these goals are important. I just went through Sarah's example, right? But we all have the same path, right? We ask these questions, these whys, and now we know why we're doing it, why we want to go through this very difficult road that is in front of us. So we have our anchor, and now we just need to find out what do we need? What do we need right now to keep on moving, right? To keep on moving forward.
Well, my answer to that question is each other, briefly.
So yeah, this is something that will also be a very individual thing, right? So what I would like to propose is if you can take 1 or 2 minutes and just list down some capabilities or needs that you have right now that needs to be solved in order to get to these goals that you listed in point number 2. Right? You can just take a minute or 2, list down a few things, and then we can share with each other, so we can actually find out how we can help. Right? It might be the case that something that is very difficult for one of you, I already solved, right? And the opposite. Maybe you already solved something that I'm wondering about the most right now, and that's how we can move on to the next level, right? And figure out what are the best ways to help each other right now. So do you think we could give it a try, 2 minutes, just to list down a few things?
Sure. Yeah, I'm already started.
All right, let's do this then.
Hmm.